Hey, let's go. Only appropriate. Hey. How do we get Flannel to do this?
Hey, y'all getting out of control, though. I know that.
Let's go, man. Let's go. What up, though, people? Welcome back to Wake Up Woodward. The sun is shining. It's feeling like a really, really, really good day. This could have been a much more sad day today. But the Detroit Red Wings, they have kept their season alive. They've kept the playoff push hopes alive. It's down to one game.
Oh, yes.
And a little bit of help from around the NHL.
And a little bit of help. Unfortunately, and I have to get this out of the way because we're all very happy right now and we're all on a high. We all didn't sleep much last night, but it doesn't matter because it was arguably the most electrifying moment in Little Caesars Arena history. Even if the Red Wings win tonight, they do need a loss from Washington or else, because if Washington wins and the Red Wings are in, Washington will get in via tiebreaker. Even if the Red Wings lose in overtime and the Capitals lose, if the Penguins win their last game, the Penguins get in. So the Red Wings, unfortunately, do not have any, I would say, of the tiebreakers in their favor. So there's still work to be done. This all doesn't mean as much if they can't validate it with a win at Montreal, because that's the position where that they're in. That this poor stretch of hockey since the last game of February, including even until now, has left you in. However, last night was fucking awesome. Last night was fucking awesome. And I'll tell you what, and it wasn't just that it was awesome, it was cathartic in a lot of ways. Because I'll tell you what, in Kool-Aid, we were having this discussion before the show.
Yeah.
When Simon Edvinsson tried to clear the puck, and I believe it went off a skate and went straight to Montreal in the Detroit zone, and they scored to make it 4-1. And then you saw Simon Edvinsson be visibly frustrated. He even slammed his stick against the goalpost. I'm like, it's over. There is no chance.
So sad.
And I was sad. I was angry. I was thinking about, man, I really don't want to have to do this show tomorrow and just I mean, I'm always going to do the show, but believe it or not, even if you don't believe me, I want to be positive. I don't want to be negative. But if they would have lost that game, it would have given me no choice. However, the way that the Red Wings were able to rally off of, and here's where I'm encouraged, because when this team is playing well, when they've been playing well throughout the season, their offense, their goal scoring is actually really good. It's been top 10 in the league despite this stretch where it hasn't been as good. And they've relied on the stars. They've relied on the depth pieces. And both of those sets of players came through in last night's game. I first got to give a shout out to he's later. I got to give another one to a guy who was struggling for a little bit, but really stepped up last night. How about JT Compher? When the score was a 2-0 in the first period, JT Compher got the goal to make it 2-1, stop the bleeding a little bit. Same with at the end of the second period. After Montreal got that goal to go ahead 4-1, I was watching it on TV. It looked like LCA was just pretty much a funeral at that point. It seemed as though you could hear a pin drop, but to the credit of JT Compher, he was able to get a goal less than a minute after the Canadians scored to make it 4-1, to make it 4-2. That at least made you feel like, okay, it's not over yet. Cut it to 2 heading into the second period. So I got to give credit to him. Also, when it comes to depth pieces, I got to give credit to David Perron. He had a couple assists. He has 4 points in the last 3 games. Got to give him credit as well. And also Shane Gostisbehere.
Yes.
He had 3 assists, and he also had one of the most aesthetically pleasing and also maybe underappreciated great play of the night, when at the end of the game, when the Red Wings were down by 1 with about a minute and a half or so left to go, they had obviously pulled the goaltender, and the Canadians, it looked like they were about to clear the puck from their zone, but Gostisbehere jumps up from his skate, bats it down, keeps it in the zone, which eventually leads to the Lucas Raymond equalizing goal. That was a hell of a play. That was how do you get that much air off of a skate? But you know what? When you needed it, Ghost came through, and Ghost came through with 3 assists. And by the way, shout out to him as well. He's going to lead this team in assists this season. Even though he's had some struggles, shout out That's why, as I've said, the depth pieces, they haven't always come through in this stretch, but a couple of them are coming through big when it matters the most.
Yeah.
But then I have to go to the stars. Alex DeBrincat, you know what? You know what?
Cat.
I was, and I wanna make this very clear because people are gonna accuse me of flip-flopping. I was wrong. I didn't think the Red Wings were going to be able to do it, especially after they lost to Pittsburgh. I didn't think that Alex DeBrincat was going to be able to turn it around after he had that tough stretch, which started with him at Pittsburgh, by the way, but he did. And he had a couple of goals in the last 3 games, 7 points. That's phenomenal. That's more than 2 per game. And it's also he's partially undoing the stretch where he wasn't so good with the stretch that he's having right now. And that's kind of all I asked from him. And he's doing it right now, and credit where credit is due. But the most credit from last night, and the most credit from this season, at least when it comes to the Red Wings and why they've improved so much, is none other than the wonderful, immaculate, stupendous Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond with a tying goal.
Is he gonna walk in here today now?
Hey, oh my God! I would probably. Hey, they're on the way to Montreal. Hopefully he doesn't come into here. But yeah, just the wonderful, stupendous, immaculate Lucas Raymond. What a season he has had. What a game he has had. And I always give credit to him because even when the Red Wings weren't playing so well, Lucas Raymond continued to play at a high level, and he has had a hell of a season. He had the goal with about 1:23 left in regulation to tie it, and then the game-winning goal in overtime. And I'll tell you what, Lucas Raymond, another one. And the last 3 games, and in these last 3 games, the Red Wings are 2-0-1, by the way. A really, really big stretch, including a big point at Pittsburgh, which looks a lot bigger now. Yeah. Lucas Raymond has had 5 goals and 7 points in the last 3 games. In the last 5, when the Red Wings are 3-1-1, which included that big win against Buffalo, Lucas Raymond has 6 points, 6 goals in 5 games, and 10 points in 5 games. And by the way, Lucas Raymond, with those 2 goals, now has his first 30-goal season. If you want to look at whether the Red Wings make the playoffs or not, and I don't want to have this discussion yet, I want to have that discussion tomorrow. The thing that you can be most excited about from this season is that Lucas Raymond looks like somebody who could end up being that 40-goal scorer, who could end up being that, I don't even know if I want to say superstar, but possibly that star player, that guy who's a point a game, the guy who's a perennial all-star, because he's really young. I believe he's only 21 years old, and he's already doing this, and he had a breakout season. He's set the expectations I have for him, or what I believe his ceiling can be. He's raised that exponentially this season. So shout out to the Red Wings, shout out to Lucas Raymond, shout out to DeBrincat, Comfer, Perron, Gostisbehere, and I got to also shout out Kane and Larkin for their phenomenal seasons as well. They did enough last night. As I said, job is certainly not finished. Got to go into Montreal and win tonight. And even if you do, you might not make the playoffs. However, that's not for right now. Right now is to celebrate this win, which they needed in the worst way, and they got it. After being down 4-1, phenomenal. Shout out the Red Wings.
Lucas
Shout
Raymond,
out the Red Wings.
He just turned 22, by the way.
Just turned 22.
Like
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Okay,
just
yeah,
turned 22. He's fantastic. He covered everything there. That Shane Gostisbehere play to keep the puck in the zone with what was a little over a minute left.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be honest with you, and we spent time like working out and close to the Michigan hockey team when I was there, and I always wondered, like, why are hockey players doing plyometrics, like doing jumping exercises? I get it now. Like, that was as big of a play in the game as any. And then that Larkin pass to win it to Lucas Raymond, the little saucer, sort of leading Raymond to set him up for that goal. Like that was special to me. Not just being unselfish, but how perfect and precise that saucer pass was. Man, it was so much fun watching the end of that game. You guys covered it. The emotions were all over the place,
Bro,
man.
it was so much fun that we were, before the show, watching it up here on the screen. And when that goal went in, Lucas Raymond, top shelf, it was just like a whole jolt of energy as if I had just seen it for the first time all over again, man. It was, oh, my goodness, Red Wings. But you know what? There's one thing I do want to point out. I know that the expectation is for them to be able to make the playoffs. And we've all sat on this show and said if they don't make the playoffs, it is a disappointment, especially with kind of the cushion they had. I do want to put a little bit of an asterisk with Dylan Larkin's injury. Who knew that between Dylan Larkin and the patch that these things would affect the Detroit Red Wings so much? But when you look at the juxtaposition of the Detroit Red Wings and their rebuild versus the other three teams who have been going through some pretty long-term rebuilds, and the Pistons and the Tigers as well, the promise and the expectation for the Pistons to start their season was that they were going to play 82 meaningful games. The Detroit Red Wings are actually playing 82 meaningful games, and they are on the cusp and on the doorsteps of getting into the playoffs if they can handle business. They lost their ability to kind of control their own destiny, which is something that going into next season, you want to see this team have that figured out. Control your own destiny. Whether they're firmly in the top 6 spots or still in the wild card, that's the next evolution for this team. I will accept playing 82 meaningful games right now, but down the stretch, obviously, dropping that one to the Capitals, how huge that was.
Yeah.
How big of a game in a negative light was that for them. But I do want to make sure that I tip my cap, especially covering the Pistons all season. You start with the expectations, and you're like, you know what? Let's see this thing. Get it 28, 29 wins. You're playing people tough. Let's rock. We will accept that. These Wings, they've actually done that, and I do got to tip my cap to them in that regard.
Yeah, no, you most certainly have to tip your cap for the way that they've responded in these last couple of games. You could even say 3 with the way they were able to get a point at Pittsburgh. However, even if the Red Wings don't make the playoffs, I'm still going to look at this as a failure of a season, and maybe I would say put some heat on a certain couple of people. Not firing anybody, maybe Lalonde, but hey, maybe Lalonde, but I will give the Red Wings credit, because one of the things that I was worried about when it comes to Lalonde is that he seemed to be a little bit soft. The way that he was like in his interviews, I'm kind of like, oh my God, this sounds like a guy who
we've exceeded preseason expectations.
Right. This sounds like a guy who just maybe isn't who they need. However,
the coach didn't say that.
However, the way that the Red Wings were able to respond in the Toronto game after Toronto had tied the game and able to keep Toronto scoreless in the third period and overtime, that leads me to believe that the Red Wings didn't quit when they could have gone, here we go again. And of course, last night, the way that the Red Wings responded when they were down 4-1 to the Canadiens and ended up winning, those to me are a couple of positive notches, even in the Derek Lalonde belt, who I had kind of been a little off on before. However, as I was saying, the Red Wings, even though last night was great, even though the Toronto win was great, man, a couple of really cool, exciting games, if they don't make the playoffs, here's the reality. Especially if the Capitals are the team that prevents them from getting into the playoffs. Here's what I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at the last 2 times you played the Capitals, you lost both of them. They got 4 points, you got 1. And that's going to be the difference. However, I hope it doesn't come to that, and I don't want to say anything now that's going to make everything moot tomorrow if the Red Wings can take care of business and the Flyers can help us out a little bit. We'll see. All I know is I'm enjoying this one a lot, but we got to get right. They got to get right back on the horse, go to Montreal, win again, and just another night of hopefully exhilaration, but a lot of nervous energy. Oh my God.
How about that puss that hit the ice with 4-2, a 4-2 deficit?
Wait, what?
The 2 octopi, they hit the ice.
What kind
of igniting that comeback?
Hit the ice,
it was the puss that hit the ice. It was thrown out on the ice, really ignited. I'm wondering what the score has to be tonight for another one to hit it in Montreal. What?
We love you, brother.
What?
When that puss hit that ice,
look,
man.
I know where you can go to take those puss to get some food, bro. It's not Shake
You take
Shack.
the puss to
Shout
get
out
food and then put it on ice.
Yeah. You can go to Premier Pat. Oh my gosh, I love this food.